Hi guys, good morning, good afternoon, good evening to all of you. Now let's discuss about Angular component. So Angular component is very famous, topic in Angular uh, framework. So basically Angular component is, a small block of your application. So there in one Angular application, there could be multiple components. So basically if you have to identify whether it is component or not. So uh, on your class you can see this is the product component class which implements ng on init. So if you have to identify whether it is component or not, so you can see at the top it is decorated with @component decorator, which means this is component. And if you see this component is decorator is taking multiple properties, which is very useful, and you should be having knowledge about that. So basically selector in the sense selector of this component, if you have to use this component at any other component or at any other location, so you have to use this name app product. So this app product will be used to inject this component inside another component, or if you have to use at another location into your app. So you can see template URL. So what is template URL? Template URL, you can use inline template or template URL. So template URL is nothing but the reference to your HTML file. So if you are talking about components, so this is the product component, and if you observe, it has four files. So angular component.cs, you have to follow the naming convention. Whenever you have to create a new component, you have to keep the name as per your choice, then dot component dot cs. Then if you see the naming convention, it is like product, your component name, then dot, then component, then your extension of your file. So if you see, so likewise it is created css file. And if you guys must be knowing what is called css and why do we use css in our web development application. So basically css is used to decorate your and make your application more user friendly with the help of css. And if you see, this is the product component.html. So this is html file, which is all these files are totally separate. And if you see, there is no you know JavaScript or TypeScript written into it, but this is totally pure, HTML file. It has many properties of Angular, which is already introduced. This is the spec file. The spec file is already generated while you generate your component. So basically, you can just, get rid of this file safely. There would be no, uh, drawback of anything. If you have to perform testing, then you can, use this. Apart from that, we are focusing on the product.component.ts file. So this is the main file which handles all the events and how this particular component should we be having. All those are directly configured here, and this is the responsible for um, reaction based upon the event which will be fired on the uh, HTML or user local machine. So if you see, we have imported few uh, modules, arrays, and services so that we are going to use in this component. So if you see selector template URL, we have already talked. Style URL. Style URL is your CSS file which we have integrated here, and the providers. So this is a service which we have used for the data, fetching purpose. So if you see, this is product service. So we'll talk about service in next video. What is service and why do we need to use service in Angular? So basically this is product component and it is implementing ng on init. And if you see the registration form, so we have used form, reactive form in Angular. And these are the basic properties which we have used product module to hold the data. And this is product created a property which is of type boolean. Now we are talking about Angular constructor. So Angular constructors works on the dependency injection. So if you see, I have injected all the dependencies which are required to run this component. So if you see this product service, and this product service is a uh, service of Angular which we have injected. This is router, this is toaster, and this is form builder. So these are the list of dependencies for this component which we have injected. Now you can see ng and init. We have initialize a form, and we have assigned all the validations and properties for this form. Apart from that, if you see, this is a function, and this is how you can use component. So basically, the we'll talk about Angular lifecycle in the next upcoming video. um, there are other you know properties as well which you can use later point of time. Let's say if you have to use animation, so you can use animation. So this animation arrays take the animation in animation, and the animation you can create through coding. And animation file can reside in anywhere, or you can have multiple animation file across your application, or you can just have a single animation and you can use that animation across all the components. So I hope you would have gotten basic idea that what is Angular component, how does it work, and how we have to configure. Okay, so if you have to generate Angular component through your CLI, then you have to write ng new c for component and your component, then it will be generated, and you do not need to worry about all the configurations. Like if you have, after creating the Angular component, you have to set up that into the Angular component. So basically, all the components that will be created, that will be part of your ng app module component. If you see, so this is already imported here. So we'll talk about Angular uh, guards in the next videos. What are the Angular guards, why do we need to use Angular guards? Okay, till then, take care.